The only 15-year-old girls that you know you've grown up with that have been raped or pimped, you don't. So I don't expect you to understand it.
These are all personal issues of yours.
Personal issues in towns and cities like mine. And talking about these girls like they're statistics. They're not statistics. These girls are, well, whose daughters do you think these are? Whose sisters? They're ours. In working class towns and communities.
30% of the men convicted of gang of children are called Mohammed. Islam promotes it.
You mean Islam promotes it or extremist Islam?
Mohammed was an extremist. Mohammed beheaded 600 people in one day. Mohammed married a 6-year-old when she was 9. When people say about extremism or Islam, there is only Islam. There's not extremist Islam, moderate Islam, there's Islam.
Can you explain the difference between cultural Islam and religious Islam?
Many Muslims are just born with a Muslim identity and they feel like they have to defend it, yeah? Even when you talk about it, they don't know what they're defending. Sure. They don't know everything about the life of Muhammad. They don't know he murdered, he pillaged. They don't know the life of Muhammad. My problem is that verse talks about divorcing prepubescent children. That's what that verse is about.
So this is a debate I never thought I'd have to have, because I assumed that as a species we realized the practice of child marriage was an abomination at this point. But apparently Muslims, like Daniel, think this is a practice he can defend as a moral good.
And that bad environment or this abusive parent, that's what's causing the slightly lower adjustment levels or the trauma. It's not the sex itself. It's not the sexual act itself.
Do you know what precocious puberty is?
Yes, I do. It means starting puberty unusually early.
But could a man have a marriage to a 5-year-old consummated if she started precocious puberty?
If she starts showing signs of physical maturity, then yes, that's permissible, as I stated. That's
what about
the
age 4?
If there are signs
3.
So this is something that becomes biologically impossible because precocious puberty,
I have a study that shows it goes as early as 11 months.
Did you know that in the Quran, one man's testimony is worth 2 women's? He doubles down later in Sahih al-Bukhari saying, "O women, the majority of dwellers in hellfire were you women." Muhammad is reported to have said, amongst the inmates of paradise, the women would form a minority. So what about the few women who are good enough to make it into paradise? According to Sahih al-Bukhari, women in paradise are described as standing in the corners of a pavilion, waiting for men to come and enjoy them. This verse permits men to beat their wives if they suspect disobedience, reducing women to property and endorsing violence. In this story about a woman who is severely bruised, Muhammad sided with the abusive husband. Surah 4:24 says, "Also prohibited are the women already bound in marriage, except the bondwomen you come to own." Surah 23, 1-6. Surah 70:30 in Sunan Abu Dawood echoes the same sentiment. After hearing that several of his closest companions were killed in battle, women started wailing in grief, and rather than letting him mourn, Muhammad tells his teenage wife to throw dust into their mouths. Surah 4:24 and Sahih Bukhari explains Muhammad allowed temporary marriage, even for something as minor as a piece of clothing. This practice looks a whole lot like prostitution under the guise of temporary marriage. Muhammad sees an orphan girl and says, "Oh, it's you. May you not advance in years." Muhammad also was not exactly a dog person.
The leader of this, Yusuf Bonner, said that he will not rest until Islam is brought into every home in Luton. Well, guess what? I'm from Luton and we don't want Islam in every home in Luton.
Okay.
This is our town.
We don't believe the objective is for them to conquer and pillage?
Well, no, they'll tell you the objective. The hostility, the violence, the grooming, the rapes, the prostitution, the heroin, all of these problems, female genital mutilation. There's so many problems that come out of that community, which the Andrew Tates, all these people, they've placed their bets as well. They see that Islam's going to win, it's going to become dominant because Christianity is weak at the minute, but that isn't the reality. I see it the total opposite. I see a resurgence of Christianity. I see Hungary. I look at Poland. I look at the rise of the populist right across Europe. There is only one solution to what's happening now. The identity and culture of it is very powerful and it's changing the face of this country forever. And who's going to stop it?
And I knew I'm on hold. This is in spite of all good things I've done in my life. I knew that I have sins in my life, and I knew that He's just and He must judge me, and because of His justice, I deserve death. At that moment, I felt a touch on my left shoulder and a voice that says, "I forgive you." And I didn't understand. I did not understand how could that be possible? Because I heard Allah is forgiving and merciful, but we cannot know His forgiveness till the day of judgment. I said, who are you that forgives me? And I feel forgiven today. And he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And I did not understand what that means because I had never heard those words. So I said, what is your name? And he said, Jesus Christ, the living God. I fell onto the floor. And I just wept.